Vidhammer Fantasy.
Welcome back to Vidhammer. This is Spudlow, and in this video we'll be covering a 2,500 point matchup between the Empire and the Lizardmen armies using the 8th edition rules. Once again, our playing surface is 1 foot wider than regulation, so the outermost 6 inches on the left and right sides of the screen are considered to be off of the board. Random selection resulted in the Blood and Glory scenario, which at 2,500 points will make an army lose if they drop to 3 breakpoints. Each standard and the BSB count as a single breakpoint, and the Army General counts for 2. There are 2 hills and 2 forests on the board, and a 3-story building with an attached blazing barricade. The Empire win the roll for board edge and elect to set up on the left side of the screen. They start with their war machines, consisting of a Hellblaster volley gun and a great cannon, which both go on the lower hill. The Lizardmen place 40 Saurus warriors on their right flank, while the Empire place 40 greatswords with the standard of discipline in the forest that turns out to be an abyssal wood which allows any unit mostly inside to cause fear. 40 Temple Guard with a Slan Priest come down, followed by 39 more greatswords, 40 more Saurus warriors, 35 knightly orders, and the Lizardmen characters consisting of a Scar Veteran in the upper Saurus warriors, and a Skink Priest that's behind the building but not in a unit. The Empire have a Wizard Lord with a Dispel Scroll and a Naked General of the Army that go in the upper greatswords along with some uncomfortable silence, a Captain BSB in the lower greatswords, and a Mounted Warrior Priest with the Crown of Command in the knightly orders. Finally, the Lizards place a unit of 8 Chameleon Skinks and another unit of 9 Chameleon Skinks behind the Empire's war machines. For spell generation, the Slan has the Lore Master power and knows all the spells of life, and the level 1 Skink gets Ice Shard Blizzard. The Empire's Wizard Lord took the Lore of Shadow and ends up with Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, Enfeebling Foe, Pit of Shades, and Occam's Mind Razor. The Slan Priest also has Becalming Cogitation, which discards 6s rolled for spells by a selected enemy caster within 24 inches. The Empire win the starting turn roll and have their battle line move forward, making enough room for the cavalry to ride alongside. For magic, the Empire ends up with 7 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They use 2 dice to cast Melkoth's Miasma on the upper Skinks, lowering their ballistic skill by 1. They use their remaining 5 dice for Pit of Shades and get Irresistible Force. They target the Slan, but the template drifts off and the miscast takes out 6 greatswords. In the shooting phase, the Hellblaster gets 26 attacks on the blue Skinks and decimates the unit. The Great Cannon aims for the Slan and gets a hit, but it passes its lookout sir, with a single Temple Guard dying instead. On the Lizardmen's turn, the Blue Saurus and Skink Priest move into the building, while the upper Saurus take position behind the fence. The remaining Skinks move up to 1 inch away from the Hellblaster. Winds of Magic gives the Lizardmen 7 power dice against 6 dispel dice. The Slan gets an extra die for each spell and starts by using 2 dice plus 1 extra to cast Throne of Vines on himself. He uses the remaining 5 dice plus an extra to cast Flesh to Stone on the Green Saurus unit. The Empire player uses all 6 of their dice to dispel, but the attempt fails and the Saurus get plus 4 to their toughness. For the shooting phase, the remaining Skink unit shoots for the Hellblaster for 2 wounds. On the second turn, the Empire move their knightly order beyond their battlefront for a flanking shot should the Saurus remain on the fence. For magic, the Empire get 12 power dice against 6 dispel dice, and the Lizardmen player neglects the Slan's Becalming Cogitation, letting the Empire get away with 6s for this round. They use 4 dice to attempt Enfeebling Foe on the Green Saurus, and the Lizardmen use all 6 of their dice to get an Irresistible Dispel. The unhindered Empire next cast Melkoth's Miasma to lower the weapon skill of the Green Saurus by 3, then they dispel Throne of Vines. The Wizard Priest casts Shield of Faith on the Knightly Order with 2 dice and a final attempt at Pit of Shades with their last 2 dice fails. In the shooting phase, the Hellblaster puts 3 wounds on the Skinks, who fail their panic and run 12 inches, putting them off the board. The cannon misfires and can't shoot for 2 turns. On the Lizardmen's turn, the Temple Guard charge the lower greatswords. The Blue Saurus move out of the front of the building, while the Skink Priest runs out the back door. The Green Saurus make a swift reform to angle towards the Knights and take a step back. Winds of Magic gives the Lizardmen 11 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They use 4 dice plus 1 extra to attempt Throne of Vines, but they only roll 11, which the Empire are able to dispel using 4 dice. The Lizardmen then use 2 dice plus 1 to attempt Shield of Thorns on the Temple Guard, but again they roll 11, and the Empire are able to get just enough to dispel it with their last 2 dice. The Slann attempts Earthblood, which gets dispelled with a scroll, and as their only successful spell, they use the last die plus 1 extra to get Flesh to Stone on the Temple Guard, raising their toughness by 2. In the first combat round, the captain misses the Temple Guard, and he takes a single wound in retaliation, with the Greatswords losing 8 models. The Slann fails to wound, and the Greatswords take out 4 Temple Guard. The Greatswords lose the combat, but the captain makes them stubborn, and they pass their break test. The Empire start the third turn, charging the Temple Guard's flank with their upper Greatswords, and 3 horses don't make it over the fence as the Knights charge the Green Saurus warriors. Winds of Magic gives the Empire another 12 power dice against 6 dispel dice, but the Slann targets the Wizard Lord with Becalming Cogitation with considerable success. The Wizard Lord attempts Melkoth's Miasma with 3 dice, which the Lizardmen dispel with 4. Next they try Enfeebling Foe on the Temple Guard, but it gets dispelled with a scroll. Finally, they use the last 5 dice to attempt Occam's Mindrazor, but without 6s, the spell fails. In the shooting phase, the Hellblaster takes out 9 of the Blue Saurus warriors, while the cannon crew clears a dead sheep out of the barrel. In the upper close combat, the Scar Veteran issues a challenge, but the Warrior Priest declines and moves to the back. The Scar hits the Knights for 1 wound, and the Saurus warriors take out 5 more. The Knights hit back for 7 wounds and win the combat by 3, but the stubborn and cold-blooded Saurus shake it off. In the lower combat, the captain hits the Temple Guard for 2 wounds before he gets pummeled in return. The Temple Guard also put 1 wound on the flanking Greatswords and 10 more on the ones in front of them before losing 5 of their own. The Temple Guard win the combat, with both of the Greatswords passing their break tests. For the Lizardmen's only movement, the Blue Saurus flank charge the central Greatswords. In the magic phase, the Lizardmen end up with 5 power dice against 3 dispel dice. They use 4 dice plus 1 to cast Flesh to Stone on the Temple Guard with irresistible force, raising their toughness by 2. In the backlash, the Slann and Skink Priest both get hit with wounds, but the Slann saves his as the Skink looks on with envy, and the remaining die is lost. In the central combat, the Temple Guard put 13 wounds on the frontal Greatswords, and the Blue Saurus try to help but fail. The Temple Guard put 1 more wound on the flanking Greatswords, and the Slann follows the Blue Saurus's lead and misses. Both of the Greatsword units swing for the buffed-up Temple Guard and are only able to get 3 wounds. The Greatswords lose the combat but remain stubborn, and both units pass their break tests. In the upper combat, the Scar puts 1 wound on the Knights, and 38 attacks from the other Saurus add 1 more. The Warrior Priest tries to do something but reconsiders. 8 Knights swing at the Scar and nothing gets through, but the remaining Knights take out 7 Saurus. The Saurus lose the combat, but cold-blooded and stubborn means they aren't leaving anytime soon. On the 4th turn, with all the combat units tied up, we go straight to the magic phase. The Empire get 3 power dice against 3 dispel dice. They use all 3 dice to attempt Melkoth's Miasma on the Green Saurus unit, but it gets dispelled. By the time the cannon crew clears the sheep out, there's no viable targets. In the upper combat, the Scar puts a wound on the knights, and the remaining Saurus do one more. The knights put Scar into the ground along with 5 Saurus warriors, and even though they're no longer stubborn, the general's inspiring presence keeps them around a little longer. In the central combat, the Temple Guard do 5 wounds to the flanking greatswords and 14 more on the frontal greatswords, taking them out entirely. The greatswords stay steadfast and pass their break check as the Temple Guard reform to face the survivors. For the Lizardmen turn, the Blue Saurus make a swift reform to head for the war machines, and just when all hope seems lost for the Empire, the Lizardmen are able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory when their attempt to cast Earthblood on the Temple Guard gets irresistible force, with the Slann being sucked into the void in the backlash. With their multi-purpose General and BSB removed from the game, the Lizardmen hit 3 breakpoints and lose the match. All closing remarks would be in bad taste, so until next time, keep checking for the latest videos, leave us a comment if you have any tactics or matchups you want to see, and like the video if you want to see more. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting.